£5
To drink in there.
the 2 litre bottle.
That's
Which
a
And
set
it was
up.
between
Which,
five. I can't remember what it's called.
It's not receipts and it's not Team Biscuit.
I was just sitting there, they were all a little bit waved by the time we'd done. There's like, why are you still sober? This is what I do.
Alrighty,
Like, these are
okay,
minor
so
drinks
that's
we're
the
drinking.
alcoholic introduction by our guest. This is two girls and a mic.
Hey, hey, hey.
Lala and my co-host over there.
She talks in the
Yes, and we've
building.
got an amazing special guest, a very old friend. Let me not use the word old.
No, it's cool, innit? We're good.
He
innit?
is old.
We were saying this
No,
beforehand,
don't
innit?
do
Like,
that.
we're old.
Not we, you, not we.
You're not that much younger than me. I don't know why you're trying it. We're all in the
Shut
same
up,
age
in this room.
Listen, I'm the spring chicken. In
Yeah, we're all age mates. Let's not play that game.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Jimmy Swagger, welcome to
Thank
Two
you,
Girls
thank you,
and a
thank
Mic.
you. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for
long
coming.
time.
It has been a long
It's
time.
Been a
long
long
time.
time.
We haven't
I
done
shouldn't
this
have
for
left
about
you.
6, maybe 7
So
years.
let's say how far. Let's say where we go back to
Bloggers Delight.
Bloggers Delight.
Yeah, and the last time we did that was what? Maybe 7, 8 years ago now.
Quite possibly. It was a long time
Actually,
ago.
tell a lie, 2011, I think.
Do you know,
it
I'm
was.
going to release some old footage. I've still got footage.
That
and I've
is
still got
ages ago.
photographs of us all kind of just,
Yeah, man, put it
just
out.
laughing
I
it
bump
up.
into alumni every now and then. I ran into Gerald the other day.
Yeah.
Gerald's got a beard as well. Didn't recognise him.
We had Ty. Ty's done
Yeah,
Bloggers
Ty's
Delight. We
done
had Ty
Bloggers
here
Delight.
on our last show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody said to me, "You lot were the original podcast." I was like, "You know what? We bloody well were,
Yeah.
you know."
I
But
want
you
money.
did. You
I want
guys
residuals.
did a radio
We did a
version
radio
of
started
the
off on the
show,
radio.
but at the time when we were doing it, you have to remember the podcasts weren't a thing.
A thing,
Weren't
yeah.
really a thing. It was literally a live audience, which we had, or on a radio station.
Yeah, because we did the radio for what, a year,
Yeah.
year and a half.
Yeah. And even that with the last show that we did, I don't know if you were there, Jimmy. It was like a hip hop special.
I was there with
And
Rodney.
that show to me is one of my faves, simply because that is one of the most organic shows that we did. Because if you notice, we had Rodney P was invited, Phoebe was invited, but Pirelli, who turned up with her,
Yeah.
he wasn't invited. She just brought him.
Yeah.
Fem Fell was there that day.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't invited. He just happened to be in the studio, and we were just
Oh,
like,
okay. I thought he was meant to be there.
no, we were just like, do you want to come in and do this? And why it was great is because the video with Professor Green, the jungle video, had
Yeah,
come out,
oh.
and we were discussing
Right.
And Femfel is a really good
Was it
friend of Pro Green, so to have him on the show as well and just to be discussing it and everything.
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
I listen back to it, I'm like, this was so good. Oh my
I'll
god.
have to listen to it again.
Wasn't it? What about that guy from? Because when you said jungle video, I thought it was that guy from the white guy from N-Dubs.
No, that's
No.
Dappy.
Yeah.
Professor Green is he used to go
He's
with
an
me-
actor now.
Yeah. he used to go
Oh,
with Millie
Professor Green's the
McIntosh.
one with. Yeah.
him, he did, you know
Okay.
those programs
Yeah,
about
yeah.
white working class boys and
Yeah.
Yeah, and suicide.
Doesn't
yeah,
he do
that was actually quite a
the
good
that mic thing now,
documentary.
the UK version of the karaoke thing?
Oh, lip syncing.
Yeah, lip sync
yeah,
battle.
with
Yeah.
Alicia Dixon.
Yeah.
Is it Alicia Dixon or Mel B?
Mel B, one of
anyway.
them. One of them.
No shade intended. Just saying. That was. You know,
Turns
let me
away
stop.
from
Let me just stop. But yeah, anyway, if you
Yeah.
guys want to listen to some of our old episodes of Bloggers Delight, I'm going to actually put them up on the Two Girls on the Mic Twitter page, so there'll be a link there, and you can listen to us lot gassing away. I'll put some old pictures up as well. And things like of that nature. But anyway, we are here to talk business, the business of things that are going on in life. So let's start with the Met Gala. First of all, did you guys see it? Did you see the pictures?
As you know, I don't care for such things, but at the same time, like, it's unavoidable. It was all up and down like all of my timelines.
Yeah.
So I've seen all the outfits and whatever. So basically, I don't actually know what the Met Gala is. I don't know what happens at the Met Gala. All I know is they've got a set of stairs that everyone walks along, takes pictures, and that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's the event. Like, people arrive on some stairs in some banging garments, lay down sometimes. I saw that 2 Chainz proposed to his missus, who I already thought was his wife, because they've got 9 kids. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I saw that, and then obviously saw Rihanna come out with her Pope outfit. Saw what's her name, Tiffany Haddish, behaving herself for the first time.
I didn't see her outfit, but I heard
She came out real humble, real
There's
nice.
this girl that I follow called Jessie Wu. She's
Yeah, I
a
know
Haitian
Jessie,
American.
yeah.
She is hilarious.
Yeah.
She ripped Tiffany to shreds simply because she was like, Tiffany had basically her nails were really like they were chipped, and it's like if you're going to the Met, that is your time and your opportunity to make sure.
Did she
you
wear
are
an
dressed
outfit?
down? She did,
Tiffany?
but it wasn't.
No, she came out in like, what was it, like black sequin trousers,
Yeah, it was
like a nice
it wasn't
silvery jacket.
fantastic. It was just very.
It was-
She could have wore that to any red carpet event.
But for Tiffany, it was a nice step into normality because normally she looks like she's excited to be places. The day she
Right.
she was just like,
Was
oh,
she
cool.
quite- she
I
was
turned
quite
up.
reserved
I'm right.
and quite-
Yeah. Even like when they were talking to her, normally she can't focus and nothing.
Yeah.
She was calm until they mentioned Michael B. Jordan's name and then she lost it.
That's the trigger point.
Yeah.
Don't say Michael B. Jordan. She's gonna go home.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't see her. I didn't see
Yeah,
her.
She
it
looked
wasn't.
nice. She
I don't
looked
think
cool.
there would be that many pictures of her out there because her outfit wasn't, to the scale of like a Cardi B or Rihanna's, who's was very elaborate. So
Rihanna turned up in the Pope's vehicle, didn't she? Like a replica of the Pope's like car.
I didn't see that, but that's
Rihanna
amazing.
was actually co-hosting the event. So
Oh,
her
okay.
outfit was designed by John Galliano,
Oh, okay,
who
okay.
clearly has been let back into the fold. Fashion fraternity.
Yeah, and apparently she was most talked about when people checked like the hits on social
Yeah.
media.
Well,
and
apparently it's
stuff
her
like
event.
that.
That's what they say. Like it's her
Yeah.
event because literally every year for the last
She smashes
4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
she's turned up with the most outrageous outfit
Yeah.
and been.
It's
so-
not really outrageous. She really sticks to theme, I find,
she
and
gets the whole
she
purpose of
She's
Yeah.
from
it.
Barbados. She
Yeah.
thinks it's carnival.
Yeah.
Look at
She-
it,
yeah.
it's like, oh, you want me in
Yeah.
sequence feathers? Oh, come on now. Do
Yeah,
that,
it's-
like every
right,
year,
that's
like,
it.
that's what people
It's
talking
it's
about.
every
not
year.
crop over.
yeah, every year she really has
Yeah.
kind of gone over and beyond, and she's kind of stood out for that. So it is
Yeah,
kind of like a
right.
running thing that Rihanna's gonna kill it.
So I think that's why they made her the co-host this year, because like you just keep killing it. You might as well just.
So what is the Met Gala? Because I have no idea.
So
It's
it's
a charity event.
it's a
Oh.
fundraising event for, I think it's the Metropolitan Museum or something
Yeah.
like
Okay,
that.
because I know that's
So
where they
they're-
hold it. As well,
Yeah,
as
so
well,
they're raising money, essentially for that.
for the arts and things.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, okay, cool. Because literally, I sat there yesterday and I was just looking. I was like, I don't know what this
What is
is.
all this in aid of?
I was like, because I saw Gabrielle Union was there and she came out in yellow and I was very happy because I like yellow and I like Gabrielle Union, so I was very happy.
So the combination
Yeah,
was a winner
I was
for
like,
you.
no, this is a win-win. No,
I
it was good.
didn't.
It was good. It was good.
She looks lovely, and
Yeah.
the dress was beautiful. However, I'm just measuring it up against what everybody else
Oh,
wore
yeah.
and what the theme was. The theme was heavy.
Oh, it had
bodies.
nothing to do with the thing.
Had
No,
nothing
it
to do-
did. It did. She said, and the designer said that the theme was, so you know, in what you might not know, but in some Catholic churches, I know just from growing up in Catholic faith, that they have like stained glass windows.
Yeah.
So her dress was supposed to be, especially the color, was supposed to be reminiscent of when you get the sun going through those coloured glass windows.
Maybe
so
they should
that
have gone
was,
for multicolored because
yeah. So it's, I think they just kind of
I just
took
felt
it and like ran with maybe that one, like that might have just been a thought process.
Yeah.
The stained glass window. I don't know why I'm talking like that. And then
Is that your designer
so I'll
voice?
just do a yellow dress.
That's your designer voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's like if you have to explain that means you've missed the mark because I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Now that you said that. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
It. But that whole design for me, again, like Tiffany Haddish, could have been more than any other carpet. She
Yeah.
looked beautiful, and
Yeah.
the yellow was gorgeous. But I just think in terms of the theme, you missed the mark. I should have been
Yeah.
able to say shit. Yes.
But the thing
Again,
is,
heavenly
I
bodies,
think,
it's there.
yeah, but then again, I guess it's the whole concept of art, isn't it? Like sometimes it's not. I mean,
The
art is not
explanation,
always
the
obvious.
interpretation,
Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't. It's not bad if then you add an explanation to it, and people are like, oh, I get that kind of,
Yeah.
because
Like,
it's
now I
like the
see it, yeah.
designer's mind. But I definitely feel like Rihanna's one, like it was definitely obvious, but then not obvious. It wasn't cliche obvious.
Yeah.
It was obvious, but
And I
it
think
was.
That's why I liked it because, like, if you took the hat off, the outfit is still a banging outfit.
Yeah. Do you
And
know
it's
who
got
else's
the hat on, it's
outfit
like,
I
okay.
liked? I liked Solange's outfit a lot.
I didn't
I
see
liked.
it.
Yeah.
And she's the
Solange
next one
killed
as
it.
well. It's
Yeah.
like when you hear things like the Met and like red carpet, that you know that she's
Yeah,
gonna turn off
she
and
loves a
stuff.
dress up as well.
That's why
Yeah.
they turn heads and
So she had
things.
like a braided halo, and then she had a do-rag, and it came down long into a cape.
Oh,
And
wow.
on the cape it says, "My God, where's a do-rag?" So it was cool. And then she had like some
Touch
black
my
tights.
hair,
Were they like trousers kind of
it looked
things?
like
And then
latex, kind of thigh-high boots.
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
So
Mhm.
the whole thing I thought looked really, really
I'd
good.
Google it, but I don't want that without reception noise.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then who others? I
Kim
liked-
Kardashian looked
she
okay.
looked okay. She looked beautiful, but again, I've seen her in that before.
It was kind of basic. I think the
Yeah.
only thing that really stuck to, actually, funnily enough, when I'm thinking about it now, because I was going to say the only thing that really stuck to the theme was that she had, I could see a cross built into the
Yeah.
dress underneath one of her breasts, and it was gold. But actually, when I'm thinking about her and how she looked in the dress, she was kind of reminiscent of a chalice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that was the actual.
Oh, was it?
inspiration behind it?
Was
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, no, she
Go
pulled
on,
it off
you.
then because it just got into my head
Yeah.
now.
Like,
I was
she
just
did
thinking
look
of it
like a
at Sunday
chalice,
Mass.
But
She
you know, she's
did.
got obviously that curvy frame,
Yeah.
so it was like just a column dress that kind of fitted her frame perfectly.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
But that chainmail fact, she's worn it so many times, and I
Yeah.
almost wish that I didn't see the old chainmail outfits that she'd worn previously because it was such a beautiful.
But the
cut. I think
gold
had
was
I not
lovely.
seen those or known that she'd worn those, I'd be
Maybe
like,
she's got a job lot on that
banging.
material and she's just trying to get it out over the years.
Who
Her
knows?
job lot.
I wouldn't put it past her.
And she
honestly.
wore the dress that she wore to the after party. You know, in
that
some years that they were
Versace.
saying that she keeps copying Beyonce
Yeah.
because Beyonce had rocked that dress already in
Too
2011.
late, girls. The hand-me-downs.
7 years later, she waited a long time. Like that's sometimes how long you got to wait in it. Probably
Right.
bought it at the same time. Like damn, I'm gonna wait it out. I'm gonna wait it out. I'm gonna wait it out.
And obviously Cardi B is how many months pregnant, and she turned up
Like
with
10 months pregnant or something.
Yeah.
Stop it, Jimmy.
Whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
and she looked cute.
And she
Yeah.
turned up with the baby father, innit? The baby daddy. And he was
on the
He
red
was there?
carpet,
he was there kissing the belly and everything. I thought
Oh,
that was
really?
nice,
I
yeah.
didn't see that.
There's a
but
picture of
they
him
were
on the red
there.
carpet with
Yeah.
her. And even, I don't know why they call it red carpet. The carpet was gold on the on the gold carpet, and he was there in front of her kissing her belly. I was like, you know, that's nice because you've been hearing a lot of friction between the two of them. So it's nice to know that they're going to be able to kind of get along and do the right thing, hopefully,
hope.
because they're not exactly the most intelligent people in the world. So
Yeah,
let's
just
hope,
touch
let's hope that
wood.
their hearts do the right thing rather than their brains.
Right, but do you know what I saw? Because I didn't see them. I didn't see Offset and Cardi together, but I saw the Migos kind of together,
Yeah.
and I just thought, to be honest, I mean, I know it would be more difficult, I reckon, for guys to really carry off that theme, but they just looked how they always look.
Like three guys in a lot of Versace.
They
Yeah.
have a Versace. I think they did have a
Yeah,
It
it
looked,
was
it looked
Versace.
like
Yeah.
Versace.
It
It,
was
looked like
Versace.
Versace.
Yeah, because I looked up and thought, you wore that in your last video, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Right?
It is. They went into their wardrobe. Like we ain't even got to think about this
They
one, guys.
didn't even need to really think
But even
about
like Michael
it.
B. Jordan looked like he just kind of turned up and he might be going somewhere else afterwards.
You know, the thing is, I saw the stylist that put him together. I think it's Ade B. Samuel.
Right,
Put
okay.
him together because that
Yeah.
was an off-white
Yeah,
suit
yeah.
that he was wearing, and I just kind of thought,
Yeah.
yeah, like I like you and I like
Oh,
him,
but wait, Chadwick though.
and I like Virgil. Oh, Chadwick's shoes, man,
I remember
He
I
had
saw the
like,
jacket.
a
I didn't see the
cream, like,
shoes.
gold
suit.
shoes.
He just looked spectacular. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, go, like, take a little chance. It's all right. This is the one time in
That
your
you can
life
dress as
where
mad as you
can
want.
Go as mad as you want. You can turn up with a sink on your head if you
Yeah.
want
Yeah,
to.
and no one will say anything
Right.
much.
Well,
Yeah.
people will say something, but
Wasn't it
you
us
know
that
what?
gunned Kim
It's fine.
Kardashian years ago for turning up and looking like a sofa?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
when she was pregnant, right?
That's
I
when she's
remember.
pregnant.
Yeah.
She had all
I
day.
didn't like that look.
But anyway, we're banging on about these outfits, but as you know, the theme was heavenly bodies. So there have been a lot of people that have been complaining about the actual theme because it was obviously very much based in Christianity and Catholicism. That's the word I can say. Some people are saying, you know, the theme in itself was blasphemous. How can you do this? How is it Christianity is the only kind of religion that people can mock without getting into trouble? If this was based around Islam, this wouldn't happen. Blah blah blah. So, what do you think? People are making these complaints. Do you think they have a leg to stand on or a point to make?
I think, in a sense, that in some areas
Yeah.
there are points that I get when people say, well, when people, not what you've just said, but when people say that Christianity perhaps is not held in the same kind of reverence as Islam. And what always troubles me about that is that what's the need to compare and contrast? I mean, they're cousin faiths, yes, but in terms of how one body of people revere something and how another body of people revere it, why is it supposed to be, if this is how this is how this should be? I don't really understand the basis for that. But I do understand, in essence, people having a problem with not feeling that the Christian faith gets enough respect. I don't know if I really agree with it about this though, because you were saying that the Pope or like the papal,
was saying that,
was saying that
Pope or the Church have more or less gave the go ahead for the theme to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that's right, and they're supposed to be head of the Catholic Church, then how can we complain? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. And if the gatekeeper said it's cool, then it's cool. But I hear what you're saying, like on what you're saying about how Christianity doesn't kind of get the same swing at the bat. I think it's also because if you look at it, like Judaism and then with Muslim religions, they're also race based as well. Like there's a race attached to those. So there's also that tinge of, are you having a go at this race, at this race as well as the religion? So there's that comes with it. Whereas with Christianity is kind of an all-inclusive base. It's like I was in Morocco a couple of weeks ago and didn't realise that it's actually they've got four major religions there. So you've got people who are Muslims, Catholics, Christians, and what was the other one they said? I can't remember what the fourth one was. But so that's why you wouldn't really get the same feedback of, oh, this Christian bomber or whatever. It wouldn't happen because there's no way of saying, when you say Christian bomber, you're not saying, oh, this Asian guy or oh, this Jewish guy. So I think that's where that comes from.
But it's also, but it's only kind of like in maybe this, in the Western world, that we perhaps look at Islam and think of a particular color, because in Nigeria it's like more or less half and half, I guess. So there I know a lot of black Muslims, and then in some Asian countries, and then obviously the Arab influenced nations. So I think maybe it might be, I think actually I agree with you that it is perhaps
it's those undertones.
Perhaps it's the white Christian gaze, in fact, that gives kind of that when they're looking across at Islam, puts a kind of color tinge to whatever kind of jab they're throwing at it in those kind of scenarios. So you might be right, that might be a kind of reason why there's there seems to be a difference between the people who are
persecuted
persecuted for it. But in terms of why is the Christian faith not really kind of like held up in the same way as Islam? I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like maybe that's the way that the nations that practice Christianity have developed. There has been a kind of trend towards more liberalism, even within the church. So, back in the days when people were being stoned for being Christian, and then back in the days where Christians were going around and strong-arming people into Christianity, it might have looked different. But I think we're just in that period of time maybe where Christians or Christianity is seen as in some respects a kind of like a laid back religion that you can kind of say anything about, or blasphemy is, even if you just say, oh my God, some people might say, well, that's blasphemy. Whereas I know, like in the Muslim faith, whenever they talk about that their prophet or their highest god, they'll always say like peace be upon him or something like that, because they won't even just use call out the name just higgledy-piggledy in the way that we might just and say, oh Jesus.
It's always said for with reason. It's like, even so, as I said, I was in Morocco, and when we were leaving on the last day, talking to all the waiters on the last night and whatnot, it was like, it was really nice having you, and it was like, inshallah, you'll return again. In God's name, you'll return again. Like that's not just thrown out as just I'd never heard them make any references in the whole time we were there to anything faith based. Whereas, as you said, like we'll stub our toe. Oh my God, ow, Jesus, that hurts. Or like that. There's that difference. Like, and I definitely feel that there is, like, it's like it's like when you've got commercial hip hop and you've got like the underground hip hop. One you can kind of give out to everyone and it doesn't really matter, and then the other one is really, really held tight by those who believe in it. So it's that kind of thing. I think there is definitely, like you said, from when it was shopped around the world, I think it lost some of its ability to say don't touch us. But then when you speak to people who are very religious and very much believe in their Christianity, they defend it to the hilt. You can't say a thing. You can't even say anything halfway offset, because you will be in the middle of an argument which will go on for hours, because they believe in it fully, as would a Muslim say if you said anything about Allah. So I think it's definitely about how it's dealt with on a mass scale. But yeah, something like the Met Gala, I think it would have been more interesting if the church had said no, to be quite honest.
And they went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah. But it's the fact that they just said yes, and it was kind of like,
okay.
People kind of tried to get upset and was like, we can't get upset? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's been okayed. Oh, right. Okay.
Maybe this kind of shows
what will I write to think piece about next?
Maybe this kind of shows that the church is kind of moving forward, because some people might say that this is a progressive move on their part.
Definitely.
I would say definitely with the Catholic Church,
which is so traditional.
Given all of the things that have been going on with them, with the priests that have been molesting young boys and stuff like that, I think they're trying to do a bit of a clean up PR campaign as well. So if they say yes to the Met Gala, it would appear to the rest of us, apparently, rabbit ears, that we're moving forward, and we're not like that church of old. We're brand new.
The Catholic Church, we're supreme.
Exactly. This is us now, so maybe on their part, that's probably what they were thinking.
Possibly,
this is probably blowing the minds of Catholic people who just believe, oh no, this is blasphemous. And I actually saw a couple of people who were like, well, actually, babe, the church said it was okay, and they're like, oh. Didn't have no comeback. They had to just kind of settle themselves. Just like, okay.
I can see. If I look at it from the other side, I can see how people would be upset, maybe with the symbolism of it, because obviously, as I'm talking about Kim Kardashian's dress, she had a cross built into it. But then, I think her and her family identify as Christians for whatever that's worth. But for example, looking at all of the people who went, if maybe you had somebody who was an atheist or who was of a different religion, should they be wearing Christian symbolism effectively as a costume? Because that has some issues when you think about it. If it was something cultural, there's all this talk about cultural appropriation and people just using and kind of bastardizing things, or just using things as props, as costumes and stuff like that. So if I think about it from that side, then maybe there is some cause for consternation within Christians who might just say, well, what I don't like is you using the symbolisms of my faith just as costume, just any for any old thing. So I mean,
but as I said, no one was disrespectful in what they did. Even the title, like, you'd expect someone to say, all right, cool, I'm going to push this to but everyone seemed to be really respectful in what they did. And
even Madonna turned up wearing she was fully clothed.
I didn't even see Madonna. I didn't see Madonna.
She just had on all black and
right.
It wasn't very exciting.
Right.
So maybe they were all sent a disclaimer at first, like, these are the boundaries, don't push them.
Don't push it. She's somebody, if you like, kind of like somebody was saying that she kind of invented the whole fashion meets religion kind of thing. Remember, she did
with
the
like a prayer,
and stuff like that. So they were expecting her to kind of come out just a little bit like, this is your time, and she just
She's old. She's had enough. Madonna tied herself out in the mid-90s.
She's done a lot. To be fair, she's done a lot. She's
Yes.
tired. You
The
have to
last
give
bit we
her
got
that.
out of her was when she thought she was a cowboy. Yeah? Or no, actually, when she thought she was
No.
British.
Yes, yeah.
That's the
She
last piece of
went
energy we got out of
past
her, and from then she's just like,
Yeah, we're just
I'm
yeah,
done.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Got to
Yeah.
leave it to it.
The
All right,
accent.
cool. So that was the Met Gala then. Okay, we're cool with that. Okay, so let's move on. Now, we've discussed several people within this next category I'm going to talk about. But there's been so much things going on with notable black men that we just I'm going to try and kind of round it off in a way that we're talking about this in a kind of holistic sort of approach. So we've got Bill Cosby, who has recently been found guilty for,
Sexual assault.
sexual assault. Got Kanye West, who just went off on the deep end. No surprise there, but he really pushed it out by saying that slavery is a choice. And then we've got R. Kelly. Again, we talked about him on the last show, but we have to bring him up again because another two people have come out to say, you know, I was living in the house, he touched me inappropriately, blah, blah, blah. So all of these things are coming out at the same time, it would seem. And because of that, there were a lot of people who were saying, you know, rather than being like, rah, you know, we need to kind of do away with these men, what they were actually saying is, oh, look, yet again, another black man that's being torn down. So I guess my question is, what is this reluctance that we seem to have within the black community, especially with kind of like with just not wanting to cancel men who, you know, clearly are doing just wrong by their community? What is that we have this, we kind of have this whole, not this whole, but we just don't want to let go. What is that about?
I think a lot of it is to do with what I see, the way I see people stating it is always some kind of compare and contrast.
Right.
Oh, how can we be doing this to Bill Cosby? What about Harvey Weinstein? Da 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 da. And then kind of like not really grappling with, is Bill Cosby guilty? Do you think that there is some truth to what he said, but more to what he's done, but more kind of going towards, I don't really give a shit about that because he's being torn down and this white guy isn't. What about Polanski? What about this person? What about that person? Do you understand what I mean? So I kind of see people doing that, and I'm kind of frustrated and pissed off by it because I just think it's such a baseless kind of argument. Don't ask the question why. You know why. White supremacy is why. Next. Like we could, that question is, it's almost like when you're just asking an obvious question just to kind of fill some time, as we were talking about earlier, right? You're asking a question, but you know the answer. So let's just get back to the real root issue. Is Bill Cosby cancelled?
As you said, a lot of that is to do with people. I've withdrawn from having debates and whatever on social media because everybody seems to be just wanting to be part of the conversation, and I find that that's what a lot of this is. People are, as you said, skating around the fact that these people have done wrong and have continued to do wrong and are continuing to do wrong. In the case of R. Kelly, who was still, like this weekend, was apparently seen out with one of his victims. So people are skating around that in favour of trying to have a wider intellectual conversation.
And it's not intellectual.
What happens with the intellectual conversation is you end up being disrespectful in that. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how much we might have loved these characters or still love these characters because of what they've done and what they represent for us as a community, they have still done wrong. It's like when you hear mothers talking about their bad breed kids and going, oh, no, he didn't deserve to die. Well, his nickname was Killer and he actually killed people. It's a probability he deserved to die. It's the same way, like, we're hearing like all this stuff about Bill Cosby and we're saying, like, it was 30 something years ago, if not more, and whatever. The fact is it still happened. The people it happened to are still having issues sleeping and whatever else and feeling the repercussions of that. Someone like R. Kelly, like someone said to me the other day, so what album is it we're allowed to play R. Kelly up until? I was like, dude,
Just
he's been
cancel
doing
him
this.
already.
Forever.
He's been doing this from before he got signed. That first album, she's got that vibe. He was singing about Little Old Sweet. Aaliyah's got it. Aaliyah was 12 when that album came out. Like, it's not something new. So we kind of need to stand by it. It's like, if I go to a party of any kind and I hear his music, I don't move.
High five.
I don't move. Like,
Telling you.
Go for
Let
it.
me
Go,
tell
go
you.
I
dig it.
walk off.
Sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
not hearing it.
I don't I don't stand behind it, and I won't stand beside it. And I get the argument of why are all these white people who've been brought to thing kind of allowed to just fade to black, excuse the pun, and just kind of like skate off and do whatever. But like you said, like they live within white privilege.
Yeah.
Like we don't have the same set of rules. We know this
our
already.
consequences-
And we've been knowing that.
doing the same
So why are we
thing.
asking it in
Yeah,
such a
That's my
surprised
argument all the time.
way?
It's like, you know what
So-
our consequences are if we
Yeah.
do something wrong and if
Yeah.
the white person does something,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
Why you keep comparing? It's
Yeah.
not the same.
It's not.
And
the
it's
same.
like saying okay, so let him carry on running bad until everyone else gets pulled up.
Right.
That's
We
why
can't
it's
have
such
that.
a
Like I
fallacious
get it. It's
argument.
definitely shouldn't be one rule for one and one rule for the other.
Yeah.
But the world we live in, understand like this is what it is, and at the same time, we need to be like responsible for our own people as well. Because it's like when this was all coming up at first, and the whole Me Too thing came up and whatever. I had a couple dudes come at me on Facebook and be like, so I've got a female appreciation folder on my Facebook
Yeah.
called Kidnap Plans, because I used to say that the most just out of pure jest was the most romantic thing a man can do is spend time with a woman. Spending time with you would be kidnapping you and keeping you with me until we fall in love. It's a joke. It's a joke in poor taste, and I get it. And people kept on coming at me and saying to me, "That's out of order. That's out of order. That's out of order." Then I started having other men telling me that I'm I'm co-signing rape. I said I'm co-signing rape. I literally had to send people inbox messages.
Right.
Here's my number. Call me. We need to have a conversation about this. I stopped people in clubs and parties and said, right, you said this on my page. Let's have a conversation about this. And then, so I get it. So I stopped using that folder. I renamed it and everything. Stopped using the folder, stopped using the term and everything, because I get it. It's sensitive to some people.
Yeah.
But what you have is, from that, you had some men who were literally, and I've called them this as before, pussy sniffing. They were literally saying these things because women were listening. Whereas,
So they were saying it to ingratiate themselves.
yeah, because they were
to
putting it
women.
there on big on their Facebook. But
Yeah.
when you see these people and you're out with them, they're like, "Wow, look at that girl. She looks
Yeah,
alright
yeah.
still. Look at her. She
So
looks
do
alright
one
still."
thing
But I'm
and
like,
say
when
the
me and my
next
guys
one.
are sitting down together and we're talking about these things. Like I've got a friend of mine an ex-friend of mine whose behavior has been of that nature, and we've all reprimanded this person and removed them from our fold. Anytime any woman mentions it, don't want to be around that dude because he's that kind of person. But it happens.
That's another thing as well that's missing, is the fact that
Men
as a
holding men
man,
accountable.
Cheryl and I talk about this all the time. It's like, if you're really about being progressive, it's like, we need allies. Yeah. If you've got somebody in your circle that you know is moving wild, don't have them in your circle, because to me it's almost like you're guilty by association, especially if that person is like way out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know that he's doing things that just bananas.
And that's what I'm saying to you. Men do this. It's like something I was reading earlier on the way up here. I need to get my magazine out your car, don't teeth my magazine. It was talking about just the different ways that male relationships and female relationships work.
Right.
Like you guys are very open and talk about everything and will sit down and say the whole of your emotions, where men won't say a thing and won't exchange that information. But we will. If something does happen, we will pull each other up. It won't be a case of, we don't talk to you no more. It'll be pull you up, educate you, make you better. Because at the end of the day, you're still one of us, but what you're doing is wrong. So that's where the difference of that happens. So when people who are trying to were shouting out, "Where are the men? Why aren't you on here talking about Me Too?" Because most men don't use their Facebook for that. Most men don't use their Twitter for that. They're there to talk about football results, music, and have an argument about like trainers or something. Like that's generally what we use it for. It's an escape. But when we're with the people who are within our small circles, like the 6 to 10 people that we hold dear to us, we make sure that everyone runs to a similar effect. Like if
But the
there is,
problem with that is that sometimes we don't feel and when I say
Don't
we,
feel
I just
supported.
mean we don't feel supported. And as much as you're saying, you pull up the people in your circles, we still have these wild ones out there that are on social media and they are saying wild things. Like the conversation that we had on the last show was about this whole thing of bantering, talking about, I say bantering with the air quotations, talking about dark-skinned women, black women, and being derogatory of them. And a lot of black men engage in that and allow men of other races to engage in that. And actually it's times like that when you want to see other
Some other black men
men
step and say,
on
"Bro,
there
what's
saying,
See, well, this is the
"You're
thing. Like I've
effing punk, stop
but same
doing
thing
that."
again. Like like I said, we've got men within my circle who have that fetish for light skinned women because it is a fetish, and we will ask them. Like, there's been times like in a couple of groups where we said, "Look, bro, every time you throw in a picture of a woman, it's either some borderline black or a really light skinned chick. Do you not like black women? Like, so we've had amnesty days where we're like, no more light skinned women today. We want to see dark skinned women. No, but the thing is, no one ever does because they always seem embarrassed by it, and you get silence out of them, or yeah, you're right. So there are those things, but even down to the same fact of like, I've been out with people and be with random dudes that I don't know, and they'll be like all night long watching the atypical types, and I'll ask them like, do you not like just women? Because I don't discriminate. I like women of all hues.
Period, right?
Like, if you look good, you look good.
Yeah.
And if you look bad, you look bad.
This is it.
Because this is the
I'm
other
sorry,
argument
how
that's
do
been
you
That's where I
distinguish
understand
But
the
this is-
between
preference.
See?
what is ugly and what is beautiful,
Yeah.
based primarily on
See,
skin
but this
tone.
is my other thing that's been winding me up. So I've been, as I said, I'm sitting, I'm watching, I'm reading, and I've seen a lot of women, especially when the whole Maya Jama thing came out. I saw a lot of women jump up and start screaming, "Oh my God, me as a dark skinned woman, da, 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 blah blah blah. I've been persecuted against blah blah." And I was like, I'm gonna keep it within because I don't want to say it. But we need to recognize not everybody is attractive to everybody, and sometimes it's not about the color of your skin. It's just the simple fact that you are not attractive to a certain amount of people. Like you are.
Yeah, I
Like-
completely agree with you, but the women who have come out and said I have been persecuted for that are saying that because the first thing that's coming out of people's minds or mouths is something to do with their skin color.
Yeah.
I don't think they're saying it just in the sense of, oh, I feel like the world feels like light skinned people are more beautiful than me. I think that they are speaking their reality of finding themselves being abused, finding themselves being spoken down to, finding themselves being the butt of jokes based on the fact that they are of a darker hue.
And a lot of that is to do with like just conditioning of bad behavior. It's like when we were kids and you go to school, you get into arguments with a little Pakistani child. First thing that comes out your mouth is a racial slur, back and forth between you. That's the first thing. It was never about your height. It was never about your weight first. It was about the first thing that they see. So there's that that negative conditioning that most of us across the planet through all races are guilty of. Like, we were raised on that, and it's going to take a time. Like, you see now that you don't see so much because it's in the limelight. People are a little more like, okay, let me behave myself. Like, the amount of people I see now who are so much more pro-black, whereas before, when we were growing up, we had divides between Caribbeans and Africans. Now that is completely like a ridiculous thing. If you hear those things, you're like, what? Where did that come from? Like, most of my African friends enjoy Caribbean food as much as I enjoy a jollof rice.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of it is to do with conditioning. It takes time. It's like we always say, like, we can't get rid of racism overnight. It has to come from the children upwards. And unfortunately, we aren't the change. We're what can make the change, but we're not the change itself. So all of those things that we came up with, where in the 90s, every black female you saw on TV was light skinned.
Made it
Like, that is
conditioning.
psychologically
Social
conditioned.
conditioning.
And it also conditioned the women as well, because a lot of women then were like, oh my gosh, okay, that's what I need to kind of
aspire
to. That's where I need to aim towards. So you had a lot of dark skinned women that would do things like put blue contact lenses in their eyes and those kind of things. And
I mean, look at little Kim.
crazy.
Yeah.
Actually crazy.
That progression right there, from where she started to where she is now, is just
Madness.
It
And I
is,
mean madness
it is.
literally.
It's sad as
Like,
well.
she's
It's like one of my
she
favourite
that's
things
literally
as
looks
well.
like mental illness.
And I think the thing with Kim as well, when she came out, I think the reason why a lot of black girls gravitated towards her because she literally looked like one of
Round
us.
the way.
Round the way girl.
And it was like,
Right.
yes, we've got a representation.
That's why black men liked her. We were
Yeah.
like, wow, she looks
And
attainable.
that was honestly her USP, was the fact that she
Yeah.
didn't look like every other kind of R&B chick out there. She was this,
She looked like every
this
chick I
little
went to
girl
college
who
with.
you went to school with, who was one of your friends, and was spitting bars. And it was like, I feel like, now, Kim, have you forgotten? That's why we loved you, you know?
But she did forget
It
because
really
she was getting overlooked, and she wanted to achieve what were other women who she
And
was
she
seeing
was
around
getting
her.
abused,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And she was getting told about herself, and she was receiving messages of being unattractive. So
It's so funny we're talking about this now because I did a half-cast podcast with Poet and Chucky. So the week before, Poet was basically explaining why he sent those tweets, and he was very remorseful, very sorry, and everything. I actually had to speak to him like maybe 2-3 days before we did that show, and I said to him, I couldn't actually speak to you on the day that those tweets were, because I was so angry. Had I spoken to you, it wouldn't have been a conversation. It would just be me cussing you out. I remember sitting in the studio and saying to Ace, I'm going to wait for them to do their show before I actually address him or say anything.
and their show was called The Apology, right?
The show was called The Apology. I listened to it, and like it actually broke my heart, because it would be like me listening to you, Jimmy, basically apologizing for something that you did that you knew, and I could feel that you knew it was wholeheartedly wrong, and you saw all of the backlash that you were getting from that, and I could just feel it, and it upset me. So I had to message him. I said, look, thank you for sending that apology. I appreciate that. I'm glad you understand why people are pissed off. I'm glad you didn't turn it into a thing. Well, we were all doing them things back in the day, so it really
banter,
doesn't matter.
innit? It's banter.
One of them things. He was like, no, it was unacceptable. He did explain the fact that how he grew up, like you said, Jimmy, we were just cussing each other back and forth, like really derogatory, nasty, to the gutter types of some of the things that he told me that he said to people and people said to him. I'm like, I know that happens, but when I grew up, I didn't hear, not to that level.
Okay.
It was awful. It was really, really bad. So I appreciated him for doing that. So then the following week, I went on their show and we were talking. So Chucky more or less asked me, what do I think is the problem? I said, to be honest with you, I don't know what the problem is. I'm like, if people are really concerned and want to change themselves, they're really going to have to look within themselves and discuss amongst themselves. And I would say men specifically.
You've got to dig, man.
Yeah, you've got
Everyone.
to
It's
speak
not
to
just
each
men.
other.
It's
Yeah,
like-
but he wanted me to answer what is the problem with black men in that regard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm not a black man, so I don't know.
yeah.
So if you want to find that out, that is
Definitely, you
up
got to go to
you
the
lot.
source. Yeah.
Exactly. I know that
Self-hatred.
me and Cheryl and my other black female friends, we talk about this shit. We talk all the time.
I think some black men hate themselves. There, I said it.
And like Poet as well admit to the fact, he goes, I did not like myself. Like I had serious listen to the show. If you hear it, you'll
And you
get
know what?
it.
I haven't listened to it, but from you telling me that, that's why I respect Poet. Because you know the thing is, for that statement I'm saying, because the thing is, that's real. A lot of men need to unpack their own anti-blackness. A lot of black men need to get on with it. Because y'all are getting older.
It'll catch up to you.
I'm
The way-
talking
and it
about
put it
people
such
in
a
my
way.
in my age bracket. You need to unpack it and stop talking about this dating outside of your race is just it's your anti-blackness calling you.
And I had
And
to,
you can't see it, and it's so transparent, it's so obvious. You exude it.
I had to stress the point as well, because this preference thing is something that it's a term that I've heard so much now. Actually annoys me. It's right up there with black and black crime and playing the race cards. Those are three phases of things I hate hearing. And I hate hearing it, the preference one, particularly because I've said this on this show before. Your preferences are determined by what we are influenced by. So we, as the black community, for centuries, we've been told that who we are quite naturally is ugly, it's unworthy, it's nasty, it's this, that, and the third. So when we're being fed all of these images of what's beautiful and it isn't us, in somewhere, in our psychology, we are going to pick a spouse that doesn't look anything like us. We have to look at that and say, but you know what?
I've said this to you
They
before.
could be correct.
I've said this to you before. I get a lot of mixed race and fair skinned women talking to me because I'm dark skinned, and they tell me openly, like, "Oh, your chocolate skin. Oh, we'd
Especially
make beautiful
now with
babies.
Wakanda and the grime
Like
scene
we'd make
popping
beautiful
off and
babies." I'm like,
everything,
hold on,
yeah.
that's the same thing the white girls say to me.
Yes.
When they're saying they want a chocolate baby, you're saying the same thing. And like I said, it comes from that point of not loving yourself. You should love yourself regardless of hue. Regardless of what hue you are, because that's all it is. It's just a hue. Like you should love yourself regardless. Me personally, I'm not interested. Like I don't care. Like I said, I've dated all across the spectrum. I'm not interested. It's not about that for me. I grew up as
When
being
you say
one of
spectrum, you mean the black spectrum or the black to
spectrum,
white
the black
Yeah.
spectrum, and
The
a
lights
little
of
bit
the light is
outside,
to the
and a
dark.
little bit outside. Yeah.
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity employer. Yeah.
Black spectrum, or is it the white to black spectrum?
No.
And I think black men really think that we're angry that you. No, we're angry at the fact that you keep telling us things that we know to be true.
Yeah.
We know why you're going over there.
Yeah.
We're not stupid. We live in the world that you live
Definitely.
in. We're not dumb.
Definitely. And a lot of it is like, yeah, there's still the same old foolishness you still hear. It's easier outside there. It's different outside there. I had the conversation with someone this week. I had the conversation with someone this week about basically dating outside the race, and I said, you know what? I said that whole lie about the sex is different, this is different. I said nothing's different. I said nothing's different at all. So you can go out there, but be honest about why you're going out there.
Yeah.
Or stay where you are.
All I want is honesty. That is,
Or stay
I'm
where you
cool
are.
with it. I'm like, okay, fine.
It's just, as I said, but
Do
it's-
you,
Lie
boo-boo?
to me.
Right?
I'm honestly like, I'm fine, but
But-
I can tell when you're lying.
Yeah.
I know when you're lying.
and like I said, it's when the lines of hatred come out as well, where you're hearing things like, black women are difficult, or black women are this, black women are that. Like, bruv, shh. Go do what you're doing over there and just do it, innit? Like,
Yeah,
no one
just
needs
do
to
it.
hear your mad excuses.
Yeah.
Like, because at the end of the day, they're mad excuses.
to
Because
tuck in your
I've been in
self-hatred.
ASDRA. I've seen when Becky's going off at Tyrone. Like, it's no different. It's no different at all.
So like going, because we digressed a little bit, but going back to the three culprits that I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that we should separate their art from who they are as
It's a
people?
hard one, and this is where the problem. This is where it becomes really hard, because you've got someone like Bill Cosby, for instance. Bill Cosby, as a person, through his business and what he's done, is exemplary. Like everything that he'd done for like bringing in, like commanding what he did with Hollywood, what he did with the Cosby Show, which raised most of us and gave us an example of how a black family can aspire to be,
Yeah.
is amazing. But now we've got to kind of take that away because of what he was doing to the rest of the cast behind the scene. R. Kelly makes a wicked tune. He's a genius. He makes a wicked tune. But he's a dirty beast. Then we've got like, and you can take it all the way along the other route. No, we're not talking about him. He's not a genius. He's a very silly boy. You've got Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had 1,000,001 flipping accusations against him. None of them ever proved. But do we put him in the same box? Because we're like, everybody loves Michael Jackson's music. Like at some point we have kind of got to say, right, it's like if you do something wrong within your job, you're struck off from that board. You can no longer work in that job. Like it's the same kind of thing. It's like if you're a police officer and you're found out to be also a drug dealer, all of your court cases that you've brought beforehand are now null and void because you were crooked yourself. And I think it does need to be the same way with art, so that when people come into the game, they know that they can't just misbehave and get away with whatever and still be making residual checks.
Right. Okay.
Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
There's
They're
no
still making
payback.
money.
Yeah.
They're still making money, and there's nothing to do with it. Like, look, like Bill Cosby is what, 80?
Yeah.
He's dead soon.
Yeah.
He's
He's blind as well. and all
yeah,
that,
like he's not long for this earth. So for him at this stage, everyone's like, oh my god, he got 30 years. He's not gonna live 30 years. So like, yes, it's for me, it's horrible.
I think as well, you know, we spoke about this when we had the guys from Cut the Chatting. I think there's going to be levels to it though, isn't there? Because the same thing you said about R. Kelly is the same way I feel about R. Kelly, because I am not dancing to a paedophile's tune. That's not
Yeah.
knowingly.
Yeah.
What does
Knowing who he was writing them with the intention for.
like
This is your muse in your head.
what
Like-
part of the game is that? If you can't, I mean, I love art in the sense that I love music. I respect musicians so highly. I respect their talent, but there's something that comes above that, and for me, that is morality. And I can't get away from the things that R. Kelly is said to have done.
Well,
I
not even said
cannot-
to has done.
Right.
Has done. There's way too much evidence against
Right.
this man for way too long for him to not have done
Right.
any of
I
this.
can't get away from.
And it's the fact that he's, for me, the fact that he's been messing with children
Yeah.
and
I
proper
can't get
preying on
around
them.
that.
For me, I'm like, nah,
That's what I'm saying.
you're next to a murderer as far as I'm concerned.
Have you guys seen the Breakfast Club interview with Sinbad, the comedian?
Not yet.
You need to watch it. It's really, really good. Like, I really felt it for him. This is somebody that's worked very closely with Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I got out of that interview was that clearly he knows. Obviously, he's not ignoring the fact that all of those women have come out and said what they said. But for him, it's a bit of a tug of war because he changed his life by giving him obviously opportunities, and obviously he was mentioning the fact that what Bill Cosby did for the black community in terms of kind of change in the face of TV. He was like, you have to remember at that time, he said the minute the Cosby Show came on, half of America actually tuned in to watch that show, and that was before social media. There was no social media. It was literally everybody. Can you imagine, like, everyone, half of this country is now listening to this podcast. That was the power of that show. And he said the man was revered in such a way. It was almost like he was heartbroken. It was like everything that he believed. And he's like, I now have to kind of look at it in the sense that, you know what, I need to separate Bill Cosby from Heathcliff Huxtable, which is the name of the person that he played in the Cosby Show. Because he said that legacy there, he said, he was like, I need that for that to stay alive and kicking, because we've got a lot of kids, a lot of black kids in the community that still need the Cosby Show. They still need a different world. They still need that. But he was really torn. He was like, didn't want to say this man is a dirty bungle. Clearly he is, but at the same time, it's like, but I can't do away with all of that work.
The thing is, I don't think he needs to do away with it, and I think this is where people need to maybe kind of buckle up and stop being so. And fair dues, it might be easy for me to say because I'm not so close
it was
to
like
it.
I had to look at Sinbad the person. I understood it. It's almost like if you found out your friend was doing all of that, I would be devastated.
I'd be devastated, but then I'd know.
At the same
but
time,
then
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve all these comeuppance, but what
that's what I'm
is,
saying.
Me, the way that I looked at you, you've let me down, bro.
So that's different from being torn. I don't understand when people are saying they're torn. Immediately my side eye comes into effect. You don't have to be torn. You know what is right. You know what is wrong. That person's done wrong. But, and there's a very real but, you can still say, you know what that person did? That person created the Cosby Show. Yeah, we get that. But he's a rapist.
But that's the question we're asking, though, isn't it? Are we allowed to sit down and enjoy the Cosby Show?
Yeah.
No, do you know what the thing is?
Because remember, A Different World. Before, I was reading this the other day. Statistically, before A Different World came on, the amount of black Americans who went to university in America was half the amount. As soon as A Different World came on, people realized, I can go to university.
Yeah, and not just university, but
be
historically black colleges and universities took an upturn as well.
It's like, you remember we had all the gambling T-shirt, like the fashion. It became fashion to wear things like what he created brought about a pride in our people.
Yeah.
Now we've got to kind of sit there and go, shit.
I don't. Do you know what? I think.
This is where the
I think we're gonna
be directed at him.
Yeah, what it is, like,
not
bruv, what
has been created has been created. But then I guess it's down to us to kind of like carry that on, if you like, or maybe take it in.
Well,
another
luckily we've got
direction.
Blackish.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to
That's
God
what I was gonna
everyone on that
say.
show behaves themselves, and I haven't got to throw that away as well.
But that's what I was gonna say.
That is literally the modern version
and
of
that's
the
what
Cosby Show.
that's what people need to do, especially those
We
people
need-
who
we
are
know
in
to
that
do it new.
industry. They need to now build on things because there is a legacy. The legacy's been somewhat tarnished, but that doesn't have to be the full stop. You can now build something new on top of that. And I think it's the thing with like R. Kelly. Is R. Kelly the only musical genius out there?
Yeah.
Like sometimes they just forget cut off. That's it. Full stop.
There's
And
other slow jams.
There's other slow jams.
What
And
about Kanye? What are we doing with him?
Kanye's cancelled for me
I didn't like him from the get-go. You know this
cancelled him
already.
ages ago.
for a long time. I don't have a problem doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this
The
man is
whole-
on here
his-
talking
the-
about free thought, but you married a
Do you know what?
Kardashian, so
Do you know what
please stop
upset?
talking
Do you know what
to
upset me most about that Kanye thing? It was all the idiots that ran behind him and tried to intellectualize his foolish statement.
Foolishness.
He made a foolish statement. He meant the foolish statement. He said what he said and he meant it.
Hashtag
Then
my
everyone
experiment
jumps-
worked.
Then everyone, him as well.
Foolishness.
Everyone jumped in behind and was like, oh, no. And I saw it everywhere. And I was sat at home and like I was
Trying to
like, really?
intellectualize
I'm like,
dumbness.
really?
Kanye fans, and I always call them the ones that say, Kanye the truth. Them people, they feel like they have a special kind of language that only they can understand. When Kanye speaks, it's like they can decipher it, and everybody else is like, I'm like, no, he's speaking English.
Gibberish. No, he's speaking gibberish.
No, he's fully, because when he said what he said, there was a pause. And it was almost like the pause was to allow him to clean up what you've just said, and then he carried on with the foolishness. So you're coherent. You know what you're saying.
Clearly, 100%.
So for me,
because
that is why I cancelled
but
you
this,
a long
but
time
this is
ago,
what we've
'cause
seen.
my third eye saw the madness that you were gonna come with. I'm not on it.
But you see, I was saying once again about people kind of skating over what someone's done. The amount of people that jumped in straight away with, oh, it's because he's mentally ill. Like, no, it's because he's a jackass.
Because he's a jackass.
That's what it boils down to. He is here to sell you shoes and to sell you albums. That's his whole vibe. He's here to be relevant. And he sat down and he thought, right, what's the best way Kanye can be relevant today? What's the most outlandish thing Kanye can say today? I know. And I've got a song about it.
I think he's got issues. I think it stems from his mum, and
Nah.
that's cool.
Nah.
That's fine. Like, I don't know what
But the
I
thing
would
is,
be
right,
like.
so
Wait,
I met him before his mum passed away, and he was a jackass then.
Do you know what? Actually, you're not the first person to be
There we
saying that.
go.
what I'm saying.
So I'm not buying that his mum
I was
passed
gonna
away.
give him that, but what I was gonna say is that basically, that's probably the help that he needs in order to kind of like, I don't know. Do you know what? I lost my train of thought. You're right, Jimmy. Whatever.
There is no helping this man. There's no helping him because he's gonna be a law unto himself. It's like I've recently been forced to watch the Kardashians, and it's made me ill. It's given me IBS. I'm gonna go and see a psychiatrist and a doctor at the same time about it, and maybe a chiropodist. But even the way that Kim talks about him, she talks about him in a way like he believes in himself more than anything than anyone, and you kind of just have to let him be Kanye.
One thing about
no,
Kanye,
you don't have to just let him be Kanye.
Saying, "Oh, I'm a genius, I'm a genius, I'm a genius," and it's like, all right, we heard you the first 500
But he's not.
times.
You know, he was doing though. He wanted you to believe it.
No. He's trying to. He's doing that to convince himself. I don't think he believes that because if you think about other people that the people have named as geniuses, they've never said that. Michael Jackson's never said it. Bob Marley's never said it.
Steve Jobs never said it.
R. Kelly with his dirty self, not even he said it. It's something that the people will give
Bestow
you.
onto
The fact that
you.
you keep saying it means that you have to keep reminding yourself of that fact because you don't truly believe that you're a genius in any which way, shape or form, which is why you're on TMZ acting like a jam ass right now. So if you're a genius, go in the studio and make some music. Go and create some clothing.
This is actually his problem. See, he's the kid that wanted to be more cool than he is. That is where that all stems from. So he's literally doing all the cool things he can possibly think of.
That's exactly it.
So he keeps on telling you he's a genius. So eventually you'll believe it too. So if I run around telling people I'm 6 foot, eventually it's going to spread so well that people be like, you know what, Jimmy's 6 foot. Even though people can see I'm clearly 5'8".
Yeah.
You keep on saying it, but eventually it becomes what it is. It's like you've got people who say they're singers and we know they're not singers, but now they've got 5 albums. If you keep on saying you're something, it will become something, and this is what he's doing. So he's now at the point. He's now also, but I also believe he's now at the point where he's trying to test his own boundaries. How far can I push this? What's the most outrageous thing I can say to offend my own people? I've got an idea, because you know he doesn't just say things for the sake of saying them. He thinks about them before he says them. So he was like, right, boom, that's where I'm going. I'm going to offend every black person by telling them that your ancestors could have like put up a fight, and we're going to ignore those who did put up a fight. And you know, it was a choice. And like I said, there was the amount of people who ran behind him and were like, "Nah, you're misunderstanding what he had said."
Can you imagine?
I'm not. I'm not misunderstanding what he would have said. And like we said, like a certain not so funny comedian then decided to say the same thing, and then when he got the backlash,
Not so funny comedian.
I'll deal with it when it happens. Innit? Then tried to backtrack, bruv. Stick in your grounds, innit? Stand firm. Stand your ground. Either don't say it or stand your ground. This is my rules on everything. Stand your grounds or shut the hell up.
Shut the hell up.
Because
I love that
this
phrase.
is the problem.
the
This
hell
is the
up.
problem. As once again, like we said, black men not being able to be accountable. Because you can say that and then you can just joke around and then you just switch to the subject. Go, all right, cool. Jump over to my Instagram now where I'm showing pictures of all the nice things I'm doing. No. Stick in your lane, innit? Behave yourself. Like, it's simple as that. It's like I said, with the whole thing of when I had that file up and whatever, and people came to me, I took it and I said, you know what? I know that's not where I'm coming from. You know that's not where I'm coming from. But it's offended enough. It's not even offended. It's brought enough people to my door that I'm like, cool, whatever. Did I put up an apology for it? No, because I'm not going to apologise for it because I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not going to tell people, you know, I was just trying to see what you were doing. No, that's not what I was doing. You're offended by it. I'm bored of hearing you're offended by it. It doesn't mean that much to me. Let me just take it down.
Yeah.
It's like even with like Stormzy, how he shut down his Twitter account once his missus got pulled up for her foolishness. Bruv, stand your ground, innit? Stand your ground. I get it. He don't want to hear it. He don't want to hear it. Do what everyone else does and don't read anyone else's tweets. Just send your own. But stand your ground. This is what a lot of us have got to do. Like, we've got to stand our ground against our friends. We've got to stand our ground against these people who are just doing all kind of madness. It's like years ago, me and a friend of mine found out that someone that we used to rave with when we were 18 had basically been brought up on charges and allegations of rape and kidnap of a minor, and is now in prison for it. We instantly chastised him, told him you're a dirty wretch, and cut him off completely from everyone. And we're like, you're in prison, you're going to rot on your own. No one wants your come and visit me request. Not interested. And if more people did this, and it's the same with the kids, like you've got kids running around stabbing and shooting each other at the moment because whoever is their peers, whoever is their parents, whoever is the person that should be telling them that ain't right, ain't telling them nothing. Ain't telling them nothing. This is why the world is in the madness it is on all kinds of levels. On all kinds of levels.
Let's stop talking about these people.
On to a lighter note. What you got for us? What you got for us?
So we're going to go into a one's Gotta Go.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Nope.
You're not familiar. Okay, so basically, it is. We'll give you like a.
Is this like Ribena and Vimto? One's Gotta Go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right now it's Ribena because they changed the method and ruined it.
I'm not really a Ribena
The pain's
anyway.
real. The pain's real.
Does it taste that much different?
I wouldn't know. I've still got 6 bottles of the old stuff at home. I stocked up.
I heard people are go on eBay. I heard people are selling the original bottles.
Yep, for
I
money.
would sell those 6 bottles. If
I've got 6 litres. Listen, I've been drinking Ribena since I was 2. I ain't selling them to nobody. They're mine. they're in my shed.
Check out
in the
eBay, see how much they're selling for. You might change.
It's
It's
going to come like sneaker flipping now, yeah?
I've got the real stuff here. I've got the real stuff. How much you got it for? Okay, cool. So one's got to go. It's quite a big category actually. So basically, this one is who's your favourite rapper who can act? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So who is your favourite rapper that can act? So I'm gonna go down the list. Yeah.
But one has got to go.
One's got to
Even
go.
though all right, okay.
Okay, there's 4, 8.
Rapping actors. Wow.
Okay, so the first one is Tupac. Second one is Ice Cube. Third one is Will Smith. Fourth one, Ludacris. Fifth one, Queen Latifah. Mos Def. T.I. Common.
This is easy.
50 Cent.
Why is there so many?
LL Cool J, because enough of them are acting in it. Ice-T.
Yeah,
and
but I
then
thought it's
DMX.
out of 4.
I just said there's enough.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Okay.
But that's easy because there's
No,
so
it's not.
many.
Do you know what? It's a toss
Ludacris
between...
is going.
No,
What
it's a
kind
toss
of
between
podcast
Ice
is
Cube and
that?
Ludacris. It's a toss between Ice
You're gonna
Cube.
you're gonna lose thing Boys in the Hood if you get rid of Ice Cube.
He
Can't
didn't
lose
really
Boys
act
in
in
the
that, though.
Hood. No, but you lose their whole back
Who's your
catalogue.
favourite rapper that can act?
Most Def, because he's actually an actor.
Okay.
He's actually a thespian, so...
Yeah, I would. That was my choice anyway.
So we're not saying who's got
Because
to
15
go. We're
Blocks
saying
is a bad boy film.
The what?
15 Blocks.
Yeah,
Bad boy
that's
film.
amazing. Sorry, Cheryl.
are
what
we
was you
saying who's got to go, or you're saying who's our favourite in
Yeah,
there?
who's our favourite?
Oh, who's our favourite?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Most Def I'd say is the favourite out of all of
Read
those.
them all again.
Tupac.
No.
This one. Ice Cube. Will Smith. Ludacris.
Definitely not. Definitely
Queen
not.
Latifah. Mos Def. T.I. Common. 50 Cent. LL Cool J. Ice-T and DMX.
No, it's
It's none of
It's
them,
most.
man. Yeah,
Most,
I'm gonna
because
go with
Brown
Mos
Sugar's
Def
one of
as
my
well.
favourite films.
Yeah.
Like literally,
Yeah.
literally. That's too easy, La.
Yeah.
You got to make it 4 strong
Had it
contenders.
been worse, yeah, that it's definitely a toss between Ludacris and Ice Cube.
Ludacris can pack his bags
Alright, then
one
we've got
time.
Another one. Jeez, Lord. Okay, so this is singers. One's got to
But he
go.
cut his
This
hair and
one
everything.
is literally one's got to. Actually, I know who you're gonna pick out of this.
Is it one's got to stay or one's got
One's
to...
actually got to go. I know who you're gonna pick, so I'm not gonna do this one.
No, do it.
Who
You
I'm
might be
gonna... All
wrong.
right,
I know
let's
Cheryl's
Jimmy
gonna
do it.
pick Aaliyah, Monica, Brandy, and Keisha Cole.
What, as actresses?
No, as singers.
As
So
singers?
one's got to go.
Aaliyah,
Yeah. I know you're gonna
Aaliyah,
pick
Brandy, Aaliyah, and
So
Keisha.
bad.
Aaliyah, Brandy, Monica, and Keisha Cole.
It's Keisha Cole.
You fool. Come on, leave this place now.
She got here last. She's got to go.
Rubbish.
Last in,
I know
first
who
out.
Cheryl's gonna say.
Who am I going to say?
Aaliyah.
Of course Aaliyah's got to go. Look, man. I'm trying to be respectful, but I never got it. There
No,
you go.
no, this is true though, because she wasn't great until she was dead.
That's what I'm saying.
She wasn't great
People
until she was dead.
romanticised
If you
up
say that out in
the
public,
Literally.
the way you get
Ah.
lynched.
Listen, Rock the Boat was her first tune that everyone was like, I love it. And hold on.
I love
She
it.
died like 4 hours after that.
I love it.
Because that first album, I swear to God, I'm the only person that loves that first album. Age Ain't
Age
Nothing
Ain't
But a
Nothing But a
Number.
Number.
R. Kelly again. Brother.
This is my thing with Aaliyah. I know Cheryl will agree. We've said this before. I feel like people have a very romanticized.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because the thing is, if you look at it, how many real bangers has she got?
No bangers,
Six.
man.
And she's
She's got
great
six.
production.
No,
the people
not even
that
there.
She's worked with Missy Elliott, Timbaland, and R. Kelly.
And
You're
they did,
not going
and
to
they
have
did a
Rush
total of
album
6 good
with 3
songs
people.
for her.
Who? Missy and that One in a Million album was dope.
It wasn't.
It was amazing.
It wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't. The remixes from the singles were dope.
Nah, man.
The album
was
versions
sick.
were dead.
When you listen to the production, how without take Aaliyah off
The version she did of
take her
Marvin Gaye's
vocals
tune
off.
was dead.
take her vocals off. But
Hot
if you
Like
think
Fire
if-
original was
No,
dead.
no. Listen to what I'm saying. Take her vocals off,
Yeah.
and if you listen to that album sonically for the time that it came out,
So
there
her
was
albums are great
nobody-
without her, you mean?
But that's what I'm saying. Like I said,
basically.
I'm with Cheryl on this. Like I've never rated her. But I'm talking about how the production between Missy.
So she
and
ruined her own
Timbaland
songs,
was
basically.
sick. There wasn't an album
Yeah.
or another set of people that sounded like them too.
Yeah.
And they flung her on it, put her barely their vocals on it,
Yeah.
and people loved the sound of it, not of Aaliyah,
Yeah.
but because everybody was big.
Yeah, she was well produced. Well produced all the way through. But
Exactly.
for me, it's Keisha Cole because like she got here last. I'm least attached to her. Like I couldn't name an album. I can barely name a song.
I like
But I like
Keisha,
her voice.
Keisha's breakout album was
What if
a
we
dope
flung in,
album.
Like, people like Tamar and K Michelle.
Do you know what?
Okay, let's just
Tamar's
choose
got a couple
between
bangers,
the
you
two of
know.
them.
Tamar's got some bangers.
Tamar's got some
Yeah.
bang. She's got some pipes
I don't
and she's got
really
some
know too much
bangers.
about K Michelle's
So
music,
I
to be
watched-
Nah,
fair.
that's
I know
true.
more about her
I-
loving hip hop.
So with K
Okay.
Michelle, I remember I saw a picture. I was like, "Oh, she looks nice," and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "She's crazy." And then someone gave me like, I think it was like the album she had at the time to listen to. I was like, "Oh, it's quite forgettable." Like,
Oh,
it's
right,
not for me.
okay,
It's
'cause
just
I've
quite
not
forgettable.
listened to
And
it.
then I was watching I was watching something on Netflix the other day, and there's an interview with Tamar on there, and she was talking about herself, and she talks with mad confidence about her music, but everything else just sounds like fluff. I was like, So like, let me listen to this music. I spent a day with it on repeat. Like her
Yeah.
vocals are immense.
Amazing.
The whole,
immense.
that whole Braxton family, have you heard
Different.
them with their
Yeah, they
not
can
to be
sing.
messed with.
Different.
They can
They're
sing.
so in tune with
There's
each
something in
other.
their water.
It's bananas. It's like, how are you
Yeah.
guys
There was
even-
something
It's
in-
their
something
mum.
in
Their
the
mum,
song.
Joe Jackson. Them. Their mum, Joe Jackson.
You
them.
will sing.
Mum,
You
serious,
will
you know,
sing.
Have you
Yeah.
watched their reality show?
Yeah.
They don't play.
She
It's
doesn't.
Like, look, you don't
Yeah.
come up from the church.
Miss E,
Yeah.
Mel
I tell you to
Evelyn.
sing, everybody thought, and they all do. They were all in their 40s, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, we'll stand together and we'll sing."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's actually flawless.
Yeah.
And if they didn't carry on with such antics, people would actually remember for the.
This is the thing.
Even,
She's another one. She's another example of separate the person from the art.
Yeah.
Because
Even
the
what's his
art's great.
face, Stevie J. Have you heard him sing?
Yeah,
He's
I've heard him
amazing.
sing. I've watched him
And
play
all
instruments.
of the things that he's produced.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you going on with all this foolishness,
He's-
carrying on
he's
like
super
a pimp and all that
talented.
stupidness? You're too talented for that.
Yep.
But
this
this is
what
the
you want
problem, though.
people to
Like a
remember
lot
you
of
for.
a lot of highly creative people are extremely flawed. It comes from like as a creative person myself, I get moments where my brain just runs off on its own and wants to do things. I just don't act on all of the things that it wants to run off and do. So I see a lot of how this happens. Like you're constantly like it brings out a level of mischievousness in you.
Yeah.
I think it's also like money and fame, though.
Oh yeah, and
You
then
add
that
it
as well. And then you
into-
think about it, like a lot of them like were nerds originally. Like imagine like someone turns around and tells you, you know what, the world is now your oyster.
Oyster,
Like
yeah.
all that stuff I couldn't
Gonna
have
lose
before, I
it.
can have now. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take all of it all at the same time and mistreat it and misuse it.
Talking about a musical on this musical
Yeah.
subject, because I was gonna. This is what I was gonna put into Shady Corner, but actually, I don't know if we've got enough space in Shady Corner to discuss it. So I just wanted to throw it out there. What do you guys think of Childish Gambino's "This Is America" tune and video?
Right, I watched the video once, and it definitely requires watching more than once.
Of course, yeah.
Because of just
so
the
much
layers
going
that's
on.
going on. I got it, but once again, social media jumped all over it way too quick for me and started revering as they always do. And
I heard the word genius being bandied about again.
He's definitely highly intelligent. I'm not using the word genius because genius is giving away too much. He's definitely highly intelligent just from watching all that he does and how well he does everything.
Yeah.
He's a great singer, great rapper, great writer, great actor, great director. Like he's amazing at everything he does. So in watching this, I got it and I got what his message was. But I don't think he intended for it to be as deep as people are telling him, saying it is. It was a simple case of this is what's going on. We're dancing in the foreground and ignoring what's happening in the background. That's what America is. We do it. They've been doing it forever. America's been running around the world, messing up the rest of the world for as long as they've been America, and then sending you a whole heap of entertainment up the front to make you forget about what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's literally what the video is.
That's
so
my
for it to
thing
go
as well.
beyond that and be like, oh my God, this is life changing and amazing. Oh my God, look how he used images from this, and that. And people are picking up all kind of crazy things and saying it's a reference to this, that, and the other. I'm like, is it?
Well, the only person that could actually tell us that anyway
It's
is
him.
him.
And he ain't
you
said
haven't really
nothing.
said anything yet. And I think because the friggin' idiot Kanye was on there gaslighting and chatting crap, to me it was like I was actually grateful for that they released that video because I needed for people to stop talking about that man and actually talk about something else, whether you liked it or not. At least it's starting the conversation about things that are currently happening rather than the things that are happening in Calabasas and in Kanye West's head. Clearly that conversation, we need to just stop that. Let's talk about this then. Do you see what I'm saying? Because there's so much references in there in regards to what exactly is not just happening in America, across the frigging globe.
Yeah.
The world over.
The one thing that I would say about it, because I don't like the video, just because I said to you guys, I'm overseeing Black Death, whether it's being enacted in a film, in a music video, in real life with police officers doing it, around us at the moment with young kids doing it to each other. I'm tired. I'm tired of it. And I'm probably a little bit triggered by it as well. So when I saw the two bits that stuck out in particular was when you have the man who was sitting on the chair and he was all bound up, and then he shot him in his head, and then you had him taking an assault rifle to the choir kind of scene. I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't need to see it. And I read some social commentary on it on Twitter, and somebody was saying, you know, is this America or is this one slice of America? Because at the end of the day, he's a Black artist and he's showing these images of Black Death and all the rest of it. Why didn't he choose to show white people dying? Because there have been a load of shoot-ups in schools and stuff where it was white people who have been the perpetrators and also predominantly white people who have been the victims. That's some
missing
that,
from
you
the
see
narrative.
that,
and if you're gonna call it "This Is America," then really reflect it.
and that's why I completely agree with you when people are being like, oh my God, this is genius, this is great. It's not. It's low hanging fruit. It's low hanging fruit because at the end of the day, we're always seeing Black people being killed. That's not genius to me. What would have been genius, what would have been brave, what would have been different is you as a Black artist showing a different kind of death. Stop showing that shit, because I feel like we're getting desensitized to it, because from now that it's now even just coming into music videos and everyone's like, oh wow, and then you've got the white gaze looking at it as well, oh wow, which is another thing that I take complete exception to when they had all these literally snuff videos, Eric Garner, all the rest of them, all of the ones that you can say their names as per the hashtag, dying on screen. The one, who was the one that got, I still haven't even watched that one. The one that got shot in the car with his girlfriend.
Yeah, with his daughter
with the daughter in there as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I
Is that
haven't.
Alton Sterling? Is that him?
Thinking,
It may
Yeah.
well be. There's so many names. I have not watched that. I can't watch it. It's too much
the
for
thing
me.
is, why would you need to watch it?
That's what I'm saying.
The person who
so why
sent it
do
to
we
me, I
need
was
to?
so
Yeah.
angry with them
I was.
because it
But
got
why
sent
do
to
we?
my
Why?
phone.
So why do we need to see the entertainment version of it?
I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was kind of saying, okay, I get the video, I get what he's trying to say, but I'm sitting as we're talking about it, I was like thinking, who is this video for though? Is it for us, black people, or is it for the people that are actually doing these things to us? Like, who is it for? Who are you trying to reach
Yeah, who
out
are you
to
talking to?
when you're
Yeah.
trying to?
Exactly.
Because we already know that this happens. You don't need to school us
So it's not
on
genius.
this. So
It's
for
not
us,
brave.
it's life. But for other people who believe,
you know what it's for?
even with all social media, that this doesn't happen to us as frequently as, you know, we've been telling them for centuries, that, you know, this is, you know, it's all a lie, it's not that bad, and, you know, it's not really about racism, it's about classism and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, classism exists, but so does racism, very much so. It's been going on since forever. Do you see what I'm saying? So who is it you're trying to reach out to? That would be my only issue with the video. I need to hear from him commentary
Like,
about
Exactly.
this.
like, what was your intention?
What was your
it? Yeah.
what was your planning?
Good.
And also you have to remember as well that he said that he's retired from music. So all of a sudden he just came back out of nowhere like,
Come on,
wait,
now, we know retiring from music
this
means
is
nothing
just
to
you
black
pulling
men
the
whatsoever.
Jay-Z on us right now.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
There
I think-
was a
yeah.
particular tweet that I really wanted to read out on this subject, which kind of touched upon and helped me kind of articulate some of the things that I'd kind of like been thinking about the video. And it was somebody basically saying, making the point in a far more articulate way than I did, about the fact that we are, I think, using this whole imagery that we've become far too used to of black people dying without kind of giving it a second thought. Like, when did that cross over and become something that was open for entertainment, even if it is in the realms of social commentary? And also another thing that somebody said, which I definitely thought was true, was talking about black women and black artists. And there was somebody who said Donald Glover is very talented and is delivering at such a high quality. He's super intelligent, but I'm just not ready to call him genius yet. I need more. And they also went on to say, we are also quick to use that word to describe men.
saw this
We
tweet.
lack the same energy for women who deliver at that capacity. And that was a tweet by Doreen, who runs the Girls Like Me Twitter handle. And I thought even that was kind of true. We're always coming with Kanye the genius, R. Kelly the genius, this one now, this video, he's genius. But we've got female artists in our realms that push boundaries, that really have pushed boundaries. And I don't really see
Not even
that
a Beyonce
energy.
gets that.
She doesn't
I
get
don't think.
genius.
I've heard Beyonce referred to as genius as well as a queen. and-
I've heard every like
Yeah, I've heard
amazing
Queen,
and queen and
amazing
this, that,
performer.
blah, blah, blah.
Is this
I've
not
never
once again
heard
to do with the
genius.
language that women use? Because isn't this not
Possibly.
about a language barrier again? Because that's
Yeah.
like I very rarely hear a man turn around and call another man king unless he's a football player. Whereas I think that's the language exchange. And remember, like we said, no one's using genius in the correct context. Nobody. Like, it's been used completely out of context, as is queen. 'Cause
Yeah.
like, so maybe that is it. Because I read the same tweet as well. And I was like, who's really to blame for that? Because men
that might be
men don't
conditioning.
talk about Beyonce. We don't care about her whatsoever. When she did that last thing at Coachella, I don't know any men that
But
I
they
know
should-
one man
Oh,
who
I
watched
know.
it.
But
Actually, I know one man who watched it, and he watched it because he works in PR.
people should be calling that genius, because it
haven't seen
was
it,
on
so-
the same level as what people are saying Donald Glover has done in this video. The layers upon layers of blackness, if you take blackness as a concept, she had the, you know, the historically black college and university symbolism. She had the marching band, as you were saying. She had the crunking, as you were saying. She had like the choir, as you were saying. She had where she came from. Like there was a lot of blackness infused in that, and to be able to pull all those strands together and make
and perform it in front of a predominantly white audience
exactly,
as well,
and have
very
them
white
have
space,
right, and have them swallow it in the same way perhaps they didn't her Super Bowl performance, which again was very black, but in a kind of different way.
Yeah, it was more militant.
To me, I feel like that was genius.
Yeah.
Then Charges comes out with this video, and straight away, just because of the layers and the symbolism, and it's genius. And I'm like, nah, fam, that's.
As I said, maybe it's about us as the fans, so to speak.
I think it's
about the
conditioning.
labels
It's how
give out.
we're conditioned to view men and women when we do things. Like, you know, if a man does this, that means it's this thing. If a woman does that, it might be of the same equal thing. But for whatever reason.
But the title that's given to it.
There's certain titles that we give to men, there's certain titles that we give to women. They might equally have the same meaning, but
same intention. They got the same intention, but it is about the words, because if you look in a dictionary and you look at the two words of queen and genius, they are worlds apart.
Yes.
But once again, it's about how we ourselves are conditioned to speak and put things out there, and how we label things. It's like it definitely comes from us. We need to start labeling ourselves and those things around us. Like if you want to call Beyonce a genius, call her a genius. Screw the bickering about it and oh my god, why has she not been called? Call her it, and then get all your friends to call her it. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying the people who are complaining.
I don't,
I'm saying
the
that's
same
because to
reason
me
I
and
don't
you,
think Donald Glover is a genius.
But that's because we don't think like that. But I'm saying those who do think like that and then complain about it.
Yeah.
It's like I put out a tweet the other day saying that people keep on complaining about people they've put on who then make more money after you. Put yourself in a position to do that. You've got the power because you created that in the first place. So everyone who sits there and calls her Queen Bey and you have the ability, as the thousands and millions of you, to call her whatever the hell you want. So you can switch it from being, you can literally tweet today and say we're not calling her Queen anymore. We're calling her Genius.
Right.
That's her name from now on. She's Genius, and she'll cock onto it and she'll release the next album. The next album will be called Genius.
Or Beyonce.
And she will, and it will happen. Like you just said, it will probably happen. I'm probably going to see that in about a week's time. Go, that's Cheryl. But
all right, so let's wrap this up with our final thing. Is anybody or anything you want to put into the lights? Anything you want to kind of highlight that's amazing, great, that you feel like you need to just kind of just shine a bit of a light on?
Infinity was amazing. It was great, and it wasn't great and amazing because it's an action movie that I've been waiting pretty much my entire life for, or that I've sat down for the last 10 years watching a bag of films. I didn't just start this year when Black Panther came out. Cheryl. It was the layers to this film without giving anything away. Like I was asked to write a piece on it for a magazine, and it was like, and I wrote the 13 things you need to prepare yourself for watching Infinity Wars, and most of them were based in preparing yourself emotionally and then dealing with the emotions afterwards, because this film was so intense that when it finished and the credits start rolling, normally the man there would be like, that was right, what are we gonna go and eat? Everyone sat there quiet, not just because we were waiting for the piece that comes after the credits. We were all like, that was so much, like from the moment it started to the moment it stopped, you were constantly dragged about emotionally, which is weird when you've come to see a bag of superheroes bad each other up, because we all came out of our house to see people get punched in their mouth, get rockets thrown at them, get laid across the ground and dragged as far as possible across the universe. But no one expected it for it to be as emotionally intelligent as it was. This is something that you'd see in the trailer anyway, but never before have we seen like the baddest of the bad guys cry.
Wow. Okay.
There's a bad guy crying in the film. That for me, as a man,
off air, didn't I say, I kind of like?
Yeah, and now
Stop.
This is the joke. I'm hearing women saying to me like, "Isn't he attractive?"
Really I
read somewhere today that he should be considered the hero.
Oh look, let's reconvene.
And I was like, that's crazy.
Let's reconvene
That's
when all
crazy,
of us
but-
have seen the film.
How about you should have been already? How about you should have been already, you know?
You gotta go and watch it then.
Do you know what? I'm gonna try and go.
When it comes out on Sky, probably.
No. So maybe not this weekend because I feel like I got maybe like next week
Yeah.
or weekend.
Yeah, I'll be
I
back.
like
I'll go and
when
see
villains are humanized a little bit because
Yeah.
I don't like when they're just evil for like nobody's born evil. I don't believe that. I feel like there's always a backstory.
Yeah.
You ended
Yeah.
up that way
For a reason, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's why I liked the whole thing about Eric Killmonger. I liked
Yeah.
that, even though I could, he's flawed and all the rest of it, but there's a reason why he's the way he is.
And actually, that's another thing, actually. Because of Black Panther, this is the one good thing that Black Panther did. It brought in a load of people that thought these films that we'd all been queuing for and waiting for and wearing T-shirts for, getting tattoos for. I have no tattoos, but I know people who do. That there was actually, this is actually a real film that we're watching. It's as good as, if not better than, A Gone with the Wind. Because it's really got all of those layers, like the like we was talking earlier on about symbolism and things like that.
Yeah.
Like when I watched the director's notes on the fight scene in Black Panther, and he was saying that they were lined up wearing certain colours to represent the African nation's flag. I was like, I didn't see that when I watched the film because I just saw, all right, they're about to tough some people up. But that's what I'm saying to you. So now what happens is so many people have come to me after watching Infinity Wars who weren't fans of this whole thing, have mocked me and all sorts, and were like, wow, this was deep. What else do I need to watch? All of them. Because you get to understand how Marvel and Disney did such a genius thing with this film, and I use the word genius correctly here, where they had you invested over the space of 10 years in some quite frivolous characters that most people like had heard of but didn't really know about, recreated most of them, and made you fall in love with them.
But would I be right in saying that Black Panther, I feel like, I could be wrong, is kind of responsible for kind of not lifting the Marvel brand because it's already up there, but kind of like
Definitely
I felt like it introduced a whole another audience. And
it brought another audience.
Yeah.
Because the second time I went to watch it, I was sat in the cinema next to what I can only describe as an auntie and uncle eating chin chin.
And those people, I feel like
I've never seen that in a
now-
cinema
I gotta be chin though.
because it was chin chin, and it came out. It came out of a Tupperware box.
Black Panther, it's now garnered in that those people who never watched any of those Marvel films now have watched Infinity War.
Yeah.
Whereas if Black
And
Panther
now
didn't
they've got
come
a
out,
respect for the rest of the
yeah,
catalogue
they
because they're
probably
like,
wouldn't have
wow.
watched that.
Yeah.
I know I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah,
I
no,
probably
you're
would have
right.
waited until it came out.
Yeah.
On,
If
on
Black
Sky.
Panther- you're
Seen it and be like,
absolutely
this
right.
is a really good film, but however,
Yeah.
like I was saying to Cheryl, if it wasn't for my 9-year-old nephew, I would quite happily wait for all of those Marvel films to come out
And probably still
on
ignore them.
Sky. Yeah, and they're good films. Like I was saying to Cheryl, because when we were talking, I was like, you should watch them. They're actually really good. They're really, really done well. But again, I think Black Panther has piqued the interest of it. They owe a lot to that.
Oh,
I know it's
definitely.
only specific to Wakanda and everything, and you know, T'Challa and everything. But I really do
No,
think it's
definitely,
helped
because
the brand.
there's the scene in there which is in the trailers again, where they arrive in Wakanda. As soon as you hear the drums, there was a section of the audience where I was that cheered. As soon as they heard the
It's about to go
like, that's what you
down.
hear, and you heard way, like that wouldn't have been a thing before because there wouldn't have been a
That
section
same
of people
kind of
that
atmosphere,
were there.
maybe in a Thor movie
Yeah.
or a Spider-Man.
Who were there for that. Like there weren't
Yeah.
that many people. Like we said earlier on, like when Idris Elba was in the first four, like the fans who were already going were happy he was there because we now had someone else to cheer for. But he didn't draw in a new audience. It was just like, all right, cool. Maybe a couple of girls might have went with their boyfriend and actually paid attention.
Yeah.
But there wasn't this huge movement, and that's why like now that in 11 days, like Infinity Wars has gone on to make dumb amounts of money, more than pretty much any film ever, because of this new wave of interest.
Yeah.
But in that, they were already at a scale of intelligence and great storytelling for years. But everyone was like, oh, it's
All right, you
finished.
sold me on it. That's in the light.
It is good.
That's definitely
Honestly,
in the light.
it is really good. And as I said, me, who's not the biggest Marvel connoisseur, like I know my bits and pieces,
Yeah.
I would definitely
Yeah.
recommend Infinity War.
And even like I want to actually. Do you know what I want to do next time I watch it? I want to watch it with a bunch of psychiatrists because there's some things in there that are in there about masculinity, about femininity, about camaraderie, just so many different levels of things that are in there, and just that go way beyond your average
I
film.
would apply that to Black Panther as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, definitely.
Like I was saying to a friend of mine, I said, you know, there's a reason why the Dora Milaje are all women.
Yeah.
You know what that symbolises, yeah? Us lot always backing you lot, the warriors.
It's to do with protecting. Yeah, it's to,
He was laughing, and I was like, yeah, no.
it's to do with women being the original protectors of the home. Like most people, when you were about to get licks at school, would be like, oh my God, please don't tell my mum, because you knew your mum was the one who was handing out the discipline and also was the one holding the home together.
For real.
And like as you see that scene in there where she has to have up her husband and he has to humble himself. But they've now released a clip of what happened before that, where they have their original.
Was
argument.
it you and me that was saying? I said that there's obviously some bits
they
that have been
had
cut out.
There's
bits.
I think there was 2
I've
hours
seen
cut
it.
out of it. Originally, when he submitted it was a 4.5 hour film, and he's trying at the moment to get the whole thing released as one.
Really?
Literally.
That would be
Because
amazing.
he's saying the everything that was cut out had a reason,
Yeah.
and actually led to the reasons. Because there were a lot of people that watched that film and said they didn't understand why Killmonger was the way he was. Well, they actually show some of that in what's cut out.
Yeah.
They didn't. A lot of people didn't even know that Denaya's character and Michael's character were together until
Yeah, I
it
can see
says
how
it.
that would have been missed actually.
Whereas the scenes there where that scene that they've shown now, where they're actually having a marital argument,
Yeah.
and he says to her, "You are my wife." Brings so much more understanding to the whole thing.
I knew that there was more just from.
But once again, it's the layers, and this is why I've always had the argument, like even comics, even as a kid reading comics, like some of the language that was in there, like having to actually grab a dictionary to understand words that are in a comic because you're 8 years old and don't understand what any of these words mean. Learning about science through comics, like there's a lot of it out there. So like like I said, like this film did a lot more than just be a great superhero movie.
Cool.
Like it's done a lot for film as a whole, because it now means that the action movie genre can actually become intelligent, and we don't just have to have guys running around with no shirts on, shooting people
no
and jumping over
brains.
cars.
Yeah.
Like we can have something a little more intelligent with the same explosions, with the same like Michael Bay kind of thing with cars flipping over, but have some intellect behind it and actually get a real story out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, big up the Russo brothers. Thank you very much.
Cool. Right. And on that note, I think my final thing is to say shout out to Crept and Conan and J2K for opening up like this ice cream bar right round.
Crepes and cones.
Crepes and
Is
cones.
that what it's called?
Yeah.
I like that.
It's amazing. It looks really nice. I'm gonna have to go up there.
Yeah.
Another place for me to sit and get fat. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. But well done to you lot. Yeah, and that's it. So guys, make sure you tune in for when this comes up. Please send to your friends, your mum, your dad, your aunties, your uncles, even your younger nieces and nephews if you have them. Force them to listen to it. It's amazing. Thank you again, Jimmy. Where can people find you?
I'm everywhere as always. Where am I? On Instagram, I'm G Lifestyle and Glassmates UK. Twitter, Despicable Jimmy. And that's it.
Cool.
Yeah, I've deleted everything else.
Is there anything you want the people to know?
Other than the
Yeah.
fact that you're tired.
I'm so tired.
It's hot in here today.
It's really hot.
Yeah.
So follow us on Twitter at 2girls, the number 2 girls in a mic. Follow us on Instagram, same thing, _ at 2girls. No, at _ 2 girls in a mic, number 2. And you can get our shows on YouTube, SoundCloud, and
Apple
iTunes,
Music, yeah,
Apple Music. And you can find us on social media. Just follow the hashtag or search the hashtag the number 2 GAAM.
And we are out. That was lovely.
Bye.
Little more.
Later.